All right, we're live on YouTube and we are recording on air. So, Keith,
What's up?
thank you. It's probably a little dangerous. You're driving, but that's okay.
I'm not ignoring you. I'm just looking. I'm just watching the road.
Good, good, good. Pay attention to the road. So, you and I have been going back and forth about speaking regarding flexible eating. So, this is for, I want everyone that's out there in the flexible eating world and the nation to hear from someone that's had great success with it, but also had their trials and tribulations and ups and downs. So, how long have you been a flexible eater?
I believe the app about 300 days. I'm coming up on a year, so it'll probably be a year this fall.
Well, if the app's telling you 300 days, that means you haven't missed a day.
No, I have not. I've made sure, and that's kind of for my own personal OCD to make sure I log in every day. It keeps me sane.
So almost 300 days. Clearly, you must have had some really good days, but also some bad days. Let's talk about it from that perspective first. What's a bad day in the flexible eating world?
A bad day in the flexible eating world, aside from not hitting your numbers, is ignoring your numbers. I guess more so.
So, in other words, eating the wrong amount of food, eating too much food is not ideal, but not as bad as simply disregarding.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather know I'm eating the wrong thing than not knowing anything.
So even when you have a day that you are going to just blow it, a birthday, a family event. I mean, in the past year, we've passed through Thanksgiving, Christmas, obviously birthdays and anniversaries. You keep track, even if you say very consciously, I'm going to eat more than I'm supposed to today.
Yeah, so even if I have the occasional cheat day, which does happen, I still keep track, if for nothing more than to see, wow, that really was all that.
Do you find when you keep track of a quote unquote cheat day, you are more likely to keep it from getting out of control?
Absolutely. You even sometimes think you're going to have a cheat day, and then you get to the end of the day and realize you can actually still make it work, which is an added bonus, if you will.
I would imagine those days are more, I just need some protein because I've hit my carbs and fat.
Yeah, those aren't hard to get. Yeah, so it's just the protein.
Yeah. So, all right, that's really great advice. I think people need to hear that because I encourage sustainability and making this a lifestyle. But I think that's a great point to add that you can do that. You can still have those days, but it doesn't mean you have to be completely insane about it. And if you keep track, you're more likely to keep it somewhat within reason.
Absolutely.
So you've been doing it almost 300 days. Tell us about some positive things.
So some great things. What I found is that I don't necessarily feel bad if I eat something that isn't quote unquote, clean or unclean. Not to say, the majority of my diet is still good, healthy foods. That's never not going to be the right thing. But, I don't feel bad about meeting a friend for a burger or grabbing a slice of pizza or even having a Pop-Tart. It just makes you feel like more of a real person.
What were you doing prior to this?
I was going back and forth between inconsistent paleo and inconsistent zone.
So, and let's give everybody a little more of your background. CrossFitter?
Yeah, so been doing CrossFit since 2008, 2009, back Reebok, but way back when.
Yep.
And since my first level one, which was 2010, that was when I started dabbling in the zone. And I think that's what attracted me to macro counting was just the weighing and measuring. That was my intro to it. So, but yeah, I've been doing CrossFit for about 7, 8 years now, and I've been focusing more on my nutrition for about the last 4 or 5.
So, long-term CrossFitter that a lot of people can, understand and feel the same with. And then you get into nutrition, typical CrossFit nutrition pattern, paleo then zone, and like you said, hard to stay consistent with both of those.
It was only because I was very successful when I was in my own bubble, when I, only hung out with CrossFitters, or I, had all my Tupperware and I had everything going on. But then as I, lived life outside of the gym, it just became more difficult to try to maintain, to get the results that I wanted.
What would be, when you say that, give me some difficulties.
So eating out with friends, I liked how with Zone, you could say, okay, if I'm ordering a meal, this is my protein, this is my carb, this is my fat. But it wasn't always the easiest, because someone would say, hey, let's go to this restaurant. And I had to think about if it was paleo or Zone friendly. Or there'd be the random, hey, let's grab a drink, or someone, like you said in your video the other day, someone brought cake. So, life happens. And I quickly realized, life doesn't care that you're on a diet. So what this allows is you to kind of, no matter what comes at you, just let you be more of a real person. I also, the thing I enjoy the most is that if you do mess up, which it happens to everyone, it gives you a place to go back to. So if you mess up on Monday, great. You go back on Tuesday, you know where to go in terms of what you should be eating.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, because, and you can argue that in any diet, you really know what to go back to. If you're doing paleo or zone, go back to paleo or zone. But with flexible eating, it makes it easier to go back to, because you can simply go back to what you ate the day before. You just have to keep track of it.
Right, exactly. And, just the same reason you keep track of, we encourage people to keep track of workouts. Nutrition's the same boat. If you don't know what you did, then, you're really just guessing at that point.
Yeah, I tell people that if every time you walked into your box, the coach simply wrote the word deadlift, you'd have a lot of questions. But then when it comes to nutrition, we're like, okay, cool, eat. So give me some data points.
So some data points. So when I started flexible dieting, I was around 200 pounds. I think I was somewhere between the 15 to 18% body fat area. So, and I wasn't necessarily unhappy with how I looked per se, but everyone wants to look leaner. Everyone wants to, has this image in their head of what they think they should look like. And since I've been doing this the past, 300 days, I now am between 8 to 10% body fat, depending on which method I use to read that. And I am consistently between 185 and 187 pounds. And it's been cool to kind of see, if I gain 2 pounds, I can kind of look back and see what I ate and be like, oh, here's what I ate this weekend, gained a couple pounds. Okay, noted. So that's probably been the biggest change, is that I have more control in how I look at food, kind of more like a science than anything else. And
now, when you first started, you and I went back and forth a bit to try to fine tune those numbers. What was that like for you? So getting people that are new to this to understand, well, it's a jumping off point. It's not perfect every time.
Right, exactly. So when I'm actually eating almost, say, about 75 to 80 grams more of carbs now than when we first started. So when we first started, before CrossFit, I was a typical meathead. So the right thing to do was, 8 pounds of chicken every day and protein every meal, and all. You have this, this predisposition of what you're supposed to eat. So the food, seeing it from a number scale, seemed that, oh, well, this is too much of this or too little of that. But just trusting the plan, sticking to it. And as I got more accustomed, my body got more accustomed to the amount of food it was giving, and I learned to differentiate between, hunger and boredom. So it was like, you're not just hungry, you're just, you're used to eating every 3 hours, and that's not life. That's just what you're used to doing. But it was a little bit of shell shock, but then your body gets used to it, and then you're able to, you get more food as you go, which has been, nobody doesn't like eating more. So that's been good.
True that. So now that you've been doing this nearly a year. Do you feel as it's something you're going to maintain for forever? Do you feel like you're done with it? What's the next step? I mean, people that will be doing this will question that. Everyone's been on diets, and there's typically an end point. What's
Right.
next for you, Keith?
This is something that I believe is sustainable, because not that I think I will, years down the road, I'm not going to necessarily pull my phone out every single time I eat. That's not any way to live. But you do this for a while, you start seeing what portion sizes look like. So you know what 4 ounces of chicken looks like, or half a cup of rice, or the inevitable 5 cups of broccoli if you decide to go that route. You see what portion sizes look like, so you have an idea, and you can use it as a checkpoint. I still weigh and measure everything regardless. I don't plan to change that anytime soon, but to say when I'm in my 60s or 70s that I'm going to pull out my app when my grandkids want a piece of cake, that may or may not happen. But no, this is definitely sustainable, and it's encouraging and exciting to find something that could be like that.
Give everyone what you've learned the most, and I think you've covered it a little bit, but what was your biggest learning point, and what's your biggest piece of advice?
Biggest piece of advice was probably going to be learn to be a real person, and plan ahead. So planning ahead is, I really think, in any nutrition plan that you follow, planning ahead is always going to make you more successful. But especially with this, planning ahead is going to be your best friend. But be a real person. I was talking to someone who they're doing flexible eating as well, and they're freaking out because it's their kid's 4th birthday party, and they don't know how to count the cake. And my response was, your kid turns 4 once. You count the cake by eating it. So, be a real person, and life happens, and do the best you can with what you got.
Well, it sounds to me like that's both your advice and what you've learned. You have to. Flexible eating allows you to be a real person again.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the term being flexible, it allows you to do that. So, it allows you to eat foods that are real foods, not like you said, the apples or the chicken, but foods that are part of your everyday life, whatever that is, and it allows you to be more flexible with your lifestyle, not just your nutrition.
Love it. I love it, Keith. Well, I know you probably have to go to work, so I appreciate you being on. We finally connected.
Yeah, it was good.
So thank you so much. I'm going to post this in the private Flexible Eating Nation group. Feel free to check it out and share it, and then hopefully it helps educate those that are looking to get started or currently already on their journey.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Keith. You have a great day.
Take care, Jason.
Bye.